Okay, the rest of these are kind of mostly for discussion, except the date picker. Remember, we do have date pickers now in Opera, and Chrome displays a date picker. Firefox and Explorer have not caught up with that yet, as far as I know, though Firefox is now in version 30 something. I don't think it's caught up, so I'm pretty sure the date picker here is already set to date type. And I'm going to turn my numeric value back into a number. This is set to a date. Firefox isn't doing anything with it. So when it comes to dates, you can still set mins and maxes in Firefox, even though we don't have a date picker here. We can still set mins and maxes. So I'm going to create another variable called ptr date and make that equal to my DTP value. I think that's what it was called. DTP value.
Parentheses before.
Thank you. And then basically do the same thing as up there, ptr date.min equals, and when you specify dates in JavaScript, particularly these date pickers, use the ISO format. So if I wanted the minimum date to be 2014 11/01, I can do that, and then the maximum date equals 2014 11/15. I can do that. It probably won't stop me from entering them in Firefox, but it will have an effect on some of the other browsers. So let me try it here first. Refresh that page. I thought I got rid of my slider, but I forgot to save that page. Okay, so here's my date picker, and if I put in October 31st, that should be out of range. And it doesn't say anything, and if I test my form, it doesn't say anything, and off it goes. And I'm pretty sure Explorer is going to be just as happy to do that for me. No problem. However, if I do switch to one of the browsers that does support a date picker, let's try Chrome. I've been having a little trouble getting Chrome to launch lately. Portable Chrome, I mean.
What if you try to enter the date out of Jubilee in the JavaScript?
It's blue. Why? Still went. So here's Chrome. That's not normal, is it? There we go. Hey, here's a date picker. I don't know why that's in there.
With the 11?
Oh, this is your range.
Because that's your range, you can't go outside 11.
Thought my range was 1 to 15.
It is. In 11.
Huh?
In November.
Today's November 3rd?
Yeah.
Why is that out of range?
Well, it's not.
Oh, because I see what you're saying. All my entire range is in November, so it's going. You can't change this. You can't change it. That's pretty smart. Never noticed that before. All right, but now with the date picker, notice it's smart enough. It's already blocked out the dates that I can't pick. And if I try to pick one, it yells at me, and I can't change the November. And if I try to go to the 16th here, it'll stop me and cycle around. And if I try to type the 17th or 16th, it'll let me, but then when I leave and test, it says must be 5/11 or earlier. But again, it let me leave. I can type it, let me leave. We can be smarter than that, and we will. Not today.
And that's Chrome.
This is Chrome. Yes, and Opera does basically the same thing, probably behaves a little bit differently. Might as well take a look since we're here.
I use Opera over IE.
Yeah, I'll give you that. Give you that all day.
Again, stuff is blocked. Okay. And Opera does not even allow you to type. One of the features I don't like about Opera is it doesn't allow you to type a date because, again, if I'm going to 1958 for my birthday, that's an awful lot of clicking.
You can type
Okay.
it.
And yes, I can type my year and get warmer. All right, but I still like to be able to type. But here, if I type a 2015 or let's go 1958 in here, not letting me.
Oh. The one that you type in the one.
I can go up and down, and that's it. Actually, it's smart enough to say, no, you're not moving, not letting you. That's good. That's interesting. Okay, so you can set these. And as a matter of fact, now that we've set them, got all these windows open, go away, go away. Don't need you really either. Explore, no thank you. Now that we've set them, there we go, we can actually refer back to these later. So in our own validation code, we can say if the date that's entered by the user is greater than the min, or less than the min, or greater than the max. We can ask about these values. They're attached to the object themselves. And so we can use them kind of as program constants. They're defined in window on load. They're program constants for the mins and the max dates, and we can go from there. Is there a way to get the current date? We already saw that. And that was in that web page we were stealing. We just say make it a new date. And now I might as well use one of these. And that didn't work very well, did it? And I set the max to a new date. That would be today. I might need to format that as iFlow in order to make it work because this is a date object and this is a.
That should only give you 3 days.
There are parentheses on that. You could still have that page open in Explorer.
Save.
HTML input types, and then we looked at the source. That was format number. It didn't have dates. Where did I have dates? Earlier in my notes that we did that? Shouldn't have been. There it is. New date. But this is a date and I'm assigning it to a max value. I may still have to format that as an ISO date to make it work. Now, if the parentheses are gone, is that better? No. So this will have to be formatted, and for that I would probably create a string and format it from there. And then down here, is it date format or format date? I think it's date format. I'm pretty sure there's an ISO in there. How do I know for sure? Go steal it or go open it from here And it's date format, not format date. And here's the sample calls. A date, which is a date dot format ISO date. Still not quite right.
You didn't say, well, maybe.
I'm going to go back to Firefox, see if I got a JavaScript error in there someplace. Date format is not a function. Really?
Is it just format?
It is. Thank you. So that seems to be working pretty good. And now if I switch back to Opera, refresh, got my alert. Now I got the 3 days. So when you assign those, you've got to give it a string in ISO date format. That's where my date format function, once you figure out how to use it, comes in handy. All right, well, that was a bit of a sidetrack there. Let's get back in here. So we covered the dates. And even if it's not a date picker, doesn't appear as one, you can still set min and maxes and then reference those later for validation. Times, I haven't messed with them much. If you need times in your applications, something to read about. Remember, Chrome and Opera are the only ones that display a time input type in a different way yet. Can also use this to validate files. If we're uploading files, that's a little beyond our scope. Mins and maxes we've already taken a look at. Can set them or reference them, either way. Step values for sliders we've talked about. This, I thought I removed it.
What was the step?
Step is used for the range control to let you put decimal places in or to go by halves or quarters. If you don't designate decimal places, you don't get any decimal places. You just get whole numbers. By designating the step, and this is an attribute, it's not, it is something you can set in code, I'm sure. You could say my range picker dot step equals 0.05 or 0.01. That's its purpose.
The number has to be exactly on the step from the minimum. So if you have a minimum of 1 and 2 and a step of 0.3, you can never get to 2.
You can never get to 2, yeah. So those steps are to allow you to use decimal places in the numeric up, down, and in the slider if you need decimal places there. There's also an option for any that lets anything go, particularly in the numeric up, down, where you can type your own numbers, it'll let them go. Thought I removed this and must not have posted it very well. The title, this has been removed. We used to be able to put something in the title and it would show up in the error messages. The HTML5 error messages, the pink boxes, the little pop-ups that came in would have our error message, our title in there. Stop doing that. You can put stuff in the title. It doesn't show up anywhere except when you hover on the field. And if they haven't entered anything, you wouldn't want an error message to pop up there. It's probably why they took it away. Already seen patterns. We can use them to make, and this is regular expressions. We've got that chapter coming up here pretty soon. Regular expressions allow you to create fairly complex patterns that a user has to match in order to meet your needs. If they don't match the pattern, you can throw that out, and this can come in very handy. This can also be done, though, in JavaScript itself. The required is an interesting one to take a look at, so I'm going to pop over here to my first field, which is supposedly required. It says so on the label. I'm going to add required on the end. I hope I haven't got too much junk left in here to the point where I can't enter any data. Yep, still got some junk. That was form load. Okay. Now if I leave that blank and try to leave, I get yelled at. If I walk through it, nothing happens. Right, I'm in Opera now, we should probably switch back to Firefox. Shouldn't have closed it though. F5. Leave. Nothing happens. Try to test my form and it fills that out. However, if I cancel my submit, so here's test form, the JavaScript, sorry, here it is. Validate the form. I'm just going to put an alert in there so that I know I got here. And then I'm going to cancel it. Nothing happens. Test my form. There's my alert. And then I said return false, which cancels the submit. Notice there's still no required value here. It's not until you successfully submit that it says, oh, never mind, this is required. You can't submit after all. So even though it's required, I think it's a little flaky about when it tells you about it.
So does it actually get sent to the server then?
No, it never got sent. Well, I said false, so it never got sent to the server.
Even if you don't say false, though. That is an error. No.
No. If I leave that out, right, if I take this back out again and hit submit with a required field blank, no, it never goes. That's an error. But what I'm pointing out here is if we've got other kinds of errors so that we cancel the submit, we never quite catch the required field until you successfully get through everything and your JavaScript says looks good to me, then the form says, oh, never mind, this is required here, you got to fill that in. And it only tells you about them one at a time. Seems a bit annoying, but there is something that we can take a look at to solve that problem. And oh, by the way, we can also set the required property in JavaScript. Again, required sounds like a business rule to me. So maybe it would be better to set the required property in form load. Or in form load, we could create a function called set the business rules. And then you go down into the set the business rules function and see all the rules for all the different fields. There's a lot of different ways to handle that. Autofocus, not really for validation, but we used to have to write code to make that happen. We saw a bit of that code. Was it in the first button? Yeah, where if you left it blank, it automatically puts you back in there again. You can set focus to a different field if you know where you want to go. The button test one gave you an example of how to do that. It's not really validation, the autofocus, but it's a good thing to put in there. And again, most of the browsers today implement it. Placeholder text lets users know what you're looking for. That's its primary advantage. Not going to talk about lists. If you want to study those, you may. Autocomplete, we talked about in HTML5. Its primary purpose is to remember previous entries. If you turn that off, then your application, your form does not remember the previous entries that were put in that field. Most users like that. My dad hates it when I come in and clean out his system and run the crap cleaner stuff and cleans all that stuff out, including all the cache that remembers these things. He hates it. Now I got to type it all again. Yeah. But your system's clean. All right, last thing I want to do today, I think, is talk about this page here. Shows how we can use CSS to format fields. So I'm going to jump to that page. I should probably set that up as a separate page or a new tab. But down here, styling with CSS, he shows us how we can add pseudo classes. Remember, that's where you say this is an input type text, input type email. When it has focus and it's valid, format it like this. And this is a, let's see, RG, this is a green 2-point line all the way around the object. And if it's invalid, that's a red box. So let's give that a shot. I've never played with one of these. So I'm going to keep that handy, and I'm going to switch back over to here. Now I have to go into the CSS. And open that up. And here's my form styles. And I'm going to stick with the form style. And if it's a form style, dot or space input. So I'm going to leave that and then input and it in square brackets. Is that what it was? Type equals text. Type equals text. I only have one. That's the first one, but it doesn't have any. How would it be invalid? That's a weird example. How's a text field invalid?
Blank.
Required. That's about it, right? Let's go with number.
Too long.
Pardon me?
If it's too long.
Don't think that the HTML5 can sense that. If I type too many characters, it just quits, doesn't it?
You have to
Pretty
make
sure.
it blank.
This may not be as valid as I thought it was going to be. Valid. If it's valid, then let's just steal stuff here. And then we want a green outline. Interesting to see if I can steal that from the Mac. Cool. And then just do the same thing for invalid. F0. Looks like this, I lost my focus here someplace. But this only functions when it has focus, so it loses this color when it's invalid, or when you leave focus. So now if I save that,
Save all.
okay. Now my numeric field is at a 5. There's my green line saying it's valid. I leave and it goes away. So the downside to this lets you know whether what you have in there is valid or invalid. Now for the text field, the email field, that made a little more sense. And I thought I read in there, let's change, well, I'm not done here yet. What happens if I put in a 55? Notice I don't even have to leave and it's bad. Okay, so that's a nice little touch. Soon, oh, now it's good. Nope, now it's bad. Now it's good. Now it's bad. Now it's it. There we go. Same thing can happen with email. As you're typing, it's red, which some people find very annoying. It's bad, it's bad, it's bad. Oh, now it's good. And you erase the character, now it's bad again. And it does the same thing because this focus, as long as I have focus, and that's interesting that that one stayed. How come the green went away and the red one stayed? That one is. It's red. Still red. It's not valid. Oh, the pink, I'm sorry. It's not red anymore. It's pink. That's Firefox. Okay, so that's another technique that you can use to demonstrate errors to the users. And it doesn't have to just be the outline. I mean, all we did was in the CSS set some style. Instead of the outline, you could change the background color to pink, or an off shade of red to show that this is still an error, as long as it has focus. Now, I wonder if that makes any sense. It might not.
Just invalid. No, it doesn't work.
Doesn't work at all?
Doesn't look like it.
Now it's green. Set it to 55 and leave, and it looks like it stayed red this time. And so what you could potentially do, and let's change it to, what happens if I have two parts, all red and all green? What color is that? Anybody know? Guess not. But what if I made this one, if it's good, make it green, but only when I have focus, but if it's bad, leave it red, period. Combine those two techniques. Now it's good. Now it's bad, so it's some shade of yellow. And when I leave, it stays. That's not bad. Pardon me?
What does it do in Chrome?
What does it do in Chrome? That's always a valid question. What does it do in Opera? What does it do in IE besides nothing? Okay, so here's my numeric value. It's green when I focus. Put in the 55, it turns yellow and stays that way.
Do one and then a period, a decimal point.
Do one at a decimal point? Did I format this with decimal places? No, it's bad because I didn't format it with.
No, just one period.
Well, it's between 5 and 10.
I know, but look,
It likes it?
you can submit it. If you put that leading 0, it doesn't like it.
How do you find these bugs? That's
Yeah, what are you doing back there? Don't do that. So you put in a 1 dot and it said that's cool. I wonder what it's doing to that. Might be a flaw here. What does it do? Does it do it in Firefox? No, Firefox doesn't like it. It's a Chrome issue. So there you go. Don't use Chrome. I'm guessing Opera does the same thing. I still have IE available, so let's give it a quick test. Green is good. Takes it off. And if I type in a 5, 55, doesn't really have, it's valid, right? How could it be invalid in Explorer if it doesn't really have any range checking to go with in this case anyways, until I test my form, and then it says that's a require show. And then it says, that's cool. So IE 11, we need to block some content here, but it was green. There it goes, yellow. I'm sorry, I had content blocked. There is a way in IE to turn the JavaScript on, period, quit blocking my content. But you have to, a user has to go out of their way to do that. So they all seem to work. So that's not bad, except it doesn't tell me what's wrong. It just said, something's wrong. So what we'll do next time is learn to simulate our programming logic app with the little red error icons that pop up when you leave the field if they're bad. If they're invalid, and if you want, and then if you want to know what's wrong, user, you hover on my error marker and I'll tell you what's wrong. That's what I can't get out of HTML5 right now, is my own error marker that tells me what's wrong, even in Firefox. Whoa. Oh, that's because it's an error. That's interesting. Where is that? IE? Why is it yelling at me? Okay, how about you? Why are you yelling at me? Hover, please select a value it's no less than 5. But did I test my form? Is that why it went yellow? Okay, and then I come in here and I say 55 and I leave. If I hover, does it tell me what's wrong? Wow. It's not real obvious that you need to hover. But that kind of covers it, doesn't it? I don't get to control the error message. That bothers me a little bit.
It'd be nice if it said the range like that.
It would be. But at least it tells you the upper range. And if you go too low, it'll tell you the lower range. My error markers would say the range, right? And your error messages would tell you whatever. That's what we're going to do next time. So I'll show you how to use JavaScript to basically simulate what we did in C# with the error markers, where they pop up and they disappear as soon as you leave. Yes, sir.
Couldn't you be a little more definitive instead of having them enter any number? Say in the text box you have
The placeholder?
like a placeholder
Yeah,
that
sure.
says, you know, take out what
Yep. You can put a placeholder in there, but once the placeholder is gone, like now,
it has to be empty for it to come
But yeah, that's a good way to start. Just say I need a number between 10 and 5 here. And off it goes. Whether it's valid or not. Let's see if I can mess up the date picker. Did I add validation? But that's an interesting technique for validating, and we can kind of do double whammies. You can do the CSS and mark them, because the CSS works in HTML5. JavaScript is off, the CSS will work. So we could put on the red border when it's got a problem, no borders when it doesn't, and put my error marker out here at the same time and take advantage of all the features that we have. So we'll work on that next time. Because I promised Paul that I wouldn't take the whole hour. I'll leave you 7 minutes. Yes, sir.
We're the only programmers in the field that do this, just so you know.
Uh,
Many of us take a look at web pages and
No, they don't do that yet, do they?
No.
But that's annoying. I hit submit and then they go, this box up here, you need to fix that. How did you tell me that? Well, occasionally they put little stars on it or something saying this, the nice ones at least tell me it's required. But if I'm out of range, they don't tell me until I hit submit.
Okay, bring up your code, please.
Let me stop the recording.